I'm Kat McDonald, and this is Rebloom Room podcast, where we talk about self-care, travel, expat life, and anything else that Black and Brown women are doing to bring more joy into our lives. I met Denisse Monge in 2020 when a Brooklyn yoga studio called Heal House shut their doors and moved their offerings online. This gave me an opportunity to take classes and workshops with skilled practitioners of yoga, meditation, tarot, sound healing, and more. Many of these teachers are Black and Brown, which was healing in a way I didn't even know I needed. At a time when the world was serving me fear, chaos, and uncertainty, taking Heal House classes a few times a week helped me feel grounded and centered in my body. That enabled me to focus on what I care about most and let the external noise fall away. Denisse Monge was one of the teachers that I stuck with throughout that chaotic year. Denisse is a yoga teacher, Reiki practitioner, and creative photographer. She knows a whole lot about chakras and energy fields, so I wanted to talk to her about her practice and what she's working on. Welcome, Denisse.
Hi.
So you always start your classes with a deep breath. Why is that?
I feel like for me, every time that I start class, the breath is that moment that I'm able to be like, okay, I'm meeting myself. And every time that we take a deep breath together, it's that, like, we're meeting ourselves within one another and having this time to just pause and connect, reconnect, release, all the natural things that breathing does, which is the inhale and the exhale of things.
Mm-hmm. It's so simple.
Yeah.
That last year there was so much sort of flight, fight energy that, like, there was a lot of times when I was either holding my breath or like hyperventilating, And so that moment to actually just stop and pause and breathe and be focused on the breath was just really lovely and simple.
It feels so simple, and yet sometimes I feel like I have to remind myself to slow down and to and to appreciate it and to experience it. I remember I had, like, one time a meditation teacher always told me this, was like, the things that are so simple, we forget them as, like, the little small miracles that happen on a daily basis. And I always like to think of that moment of, like, the little miracle that happens, the big miracle of breath that happens on a every single simple, forgetful, almost kind of way.
Mm-hmm. So how would you describe the work that you do?
Intuitive. I feel very connected to myself, to the earth, to the people that I have this connection with in this line of work. But I feel like all of it just comes very intuitive. Like, if I have been doing this for lifetimes, if I know what I'm doing, it just feels all very intuitive.
Mm-hmm. I
really believe in rituals as habits, and habits like the creation of your life. And every Monday I have a meeting with myself, and I do, like, about a 30-minute meditation on Mondays, and then I do, like, an hour planning session of just how I want, what my vision for that week is, or my intention for that week, or what I feel like Spirit's trying to guide me for that week. So on Mondays around 11 a.m. I have my meditation practice, and then I do my hour of planning, and I kind of write down just some ideas that I'm feeling or what I'm experiencing. And each week I kind of receive a message around a theme that I'm going to be working with. Some weeks it's, energy healing. Some weeks it's the heart. Some weeks it's grief. Some weeks forgiveness. Some is being more playful. Some is releasing. Some is realizing, like, oh, wow, I'm still in awareness with this pattern. Or maybe I wasn't even aware of that pattern. So class all starts for me with that weekly meeting with myself.
I've been doing morning meetings with myself. I didn't call it that, but yeah, I've been sort of, doing, like, get up a little bit early, think about what my main goal of the week is. And, like, if I have a theme or mantra or, like, a quote that'll kind of guide me through the week. I've been doing that too. It's helpful.
Yeah. So helpful.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get into yoga? Like, what attracted you to it? And Reiki, how did that come about?
I feel like the yoga and the Reiki and the meditation all started later on in my life, but the intuitive portion of like being too sensitive or, feeling a lot of energy around me started when I was a kid. I was always super intuitive. I was always super empathic. And, my mom always says that like I could talk to anybody because anybody would always tell me what they were feeling. Or I would feel really sensitive around certain type of moments in my life and like overly sensitive. I realize now that I didn't have the right boundaries around my intuition. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's when around 16 to like, I would say 26, like 10 years of kind of like thinking my intuition was wrong, not really listening. I had that moment of like things just not going the way that, that I had envisioned. I felt that it just wasn't like the right path for me. And then when I turned 26, I had just finished my yoga teacher training because my sister was like, you need to do this. This is amazing. And, at that time it was like hot power yoga. Mm-hmm. And, and I got into it. I got into the yoga practice because of my sister. And then I realized like, whoa, all this yogaing, all this like learning things just makes me listen to what my intuition has been telling me all along. I had that moment at 26 being like, wow, this healing stuff is really just listening to my intuition and going with like that first instinct or going with that first feeling. But I realized like how often I was taught not to listen to that, or how often I feared listening to my intuition. And that's really when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start listening. I like made a commitment with myself to respect my intuition rather than to like fear it. And my life changed. Yeah.
How do you know the difference between intuition and fear?
Intuition for me is that first knowing that just feels right. And fear to me is you give yourself a million scenarios, right? Like with intuition, it has only one scenario. As to fear has a lot of scenarios. Things can go wrong. Things can not go the way you envision them. You might feel like this gut, like your gut just being like, no, at least for me. And realizing like my intuition is like, it's simple. It's very like, yes, no. And it doesn't go into a story. It doesn't go into like, well, if you do this or you act like that, this is how it's going to end up. And that's kind of how I would describe intuition. Like it's that certified knowing, like that deeper knowing.
There's a clarity.
Yeah, like a clarity.
You said in class that meditation is not something that you master. It's something that you practice.
I had a moment and I had a very like human moment, but I recently went back to Guatemala and my family is from El Salvador, and I had a moment that when I do take vacation, I put a lot to just kind of be able to meditate and like to receive and I put a lot of pressure on that. So I had a moment that I'm sitting and I was like, well, I'm just going to meditate and I'm just going to, try to drop in. And I realized like I was having a very hard time sitting in front of a lake. And I'm like, well, this should be like the easiest meditation. There's literally no one around. There's a lake. Like no one can bother me. Mm-hmm. And I had a moment that was like, open your eyes, because the meditation is not closing your eyes at this moment. It is receiving the beauty that's in front of you. That was really humbling to me because I realized every time I come to my meditation practice, I start as a beginner, and never will I be able to say, okay, I've done this. I've meditated every single day, especially in the last like 5 years. I meditated almost every single day for like 365 days. And having that moment to be like, I'm never going to master this. This is a moment for myself to just accept what is right in front of me, right within me, to accept my surroundings, to accept scenarios, to accept things, and to make peace with the things that I can't accept. And that's something that to me was very humbling, to realize like the goal is to just kind of meet yourself where you're at.
Mm-hmm. I remember I had that revelation in a yoga class because I felt myself like comparing to other people, looking around like they can do what I can. I haven't been able to do that pose perfectly or whatever. And I realized, wait, like I'm never going to get there. It's like this, carrot in front of my head. I'm never going to get to that carrot. It's just me doing the thing.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, and then, I realized I'm like, it's just sometimes we put ourselves like this high expectation or high thing. And I realized like, don't give into the illusion so much that you are losing like what's right in front of you, the beauty that's right in front of you, the beauty of this moment. I also realized a lot, like making peace with every single part of my journey up to this moment was something that was very humbling to me.
So also in a recent class, you had us focus on our heart chakra. Mm. And I'm thinking about in 2020, I was like, I didn't watch the news a lot, but when I did, my heart felt so heavy. It was just almost physically painful. What kinds of things can people do if they're feeling heart heavy or if they're feeling stuck? How can they work with energy or chakras or any kind of other practice? What can people do to get out of that heavy, stuck feeling?
I love that question because I think that, like I said, a lot of the things are very simple and they're not simple at the same time. One thing that I really love practicing is just bringing my hands to my heart and having that moment to just listen to your heartbeat. And whatever the heart tells you at that moment is exactly what you need to hear. And that looks different for each and every single one of us. Every single day, I try to bring my hands to my heart and just feel my heart beating. And as long as I feel my heart beating and as long as I'm able to have that moment to connect, I could feel my own energy kind of just holding space for myself and for the moments in my life. You said last year was one of those years that we felt our heart a little bit deeper and we felt more sensitive and we felt, all the chaos in the world. And I think it has to do with like two things, mostly because we were all going through our own personal shifts. We all had a moment to pause and to be in this pandemic. And then we also had the collective shift. That is one of those things that is like, okay, in that collective mind wave, we had that pause and checking in with your heart first kind of inspires others to do the same. And then also too, like I always find myself asking my friends, like, how's your heart today? Or like, how are you feeling today? Sometimes when I ask my friends, how's your heart today? They're like, okay, like you're too much. But, but it's only because I ask myself that question.
Can you talk about like the martial arts that you're doing and the other things like photography?
The martial arts is actually fairly recent in the last 10 months. I moved back to my hometown, Miami, and my younger brother is also a yoga teacher / martial artist. He's the reason why I found myself back in Miami because he, opened a new school called the Art of Movement Miami. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to come back. It's a martial arts school that focuses on other movements such as calisthenics and yoga. One of the classes is Muay Thai, which he's the main teacher of. What I realized is that a lot has come up for me around confidence, around strength, around like hitting something, hitting somebody, and being able to defend myself. Mm-hmm. So the martial arts for me is another limb of like my movement practice, which has taught me a lot.
I've done a lot of work on boundaries in the past year, and I imagine like boundaries energetic, and then you're actually like doing a defense boundary, which kind of would fortify your boundaries even more.
Yeah, 100%. In martial arts, it's so much opposite from my other practices, which all of them kind of require a level of stillness. As to this one is keep going, keep going, keep going, keep doing this, keep doing that. There's 50 minutes and there's 5 minutes intervals of you just going. And I realized like, hitting something and realizing like your own power, realizing that there's this, communication that you're because we usually partner up. As to my other practices are very alone. Like my yoga practice is, I practice on my mat, I meditate alone, I do Reiki on myself alone. So learning my boundaries, learning when to say no, learning, when to go, learning that sometimes things come up and you don't feel as strong as you need to be, and realizing like, no, I am like, there's this like fire within me recently that I think has really been inspired by that practice.
I tried Muay Thai a few times. I got bruises all up and down my arms. It's real.
Yeah. It's so real. I always have bruises somewhere in my legs and somewhere, like always.
It makes you feel kind of tough, kind of nice.
It really does. I think that we should all be able to define ourselves, to know different, techniques. The other day I was out and about and a guy grabbed my waist. And that time we were practicing elbows that day. And he grabbed my waist to like move me, and I like accidentally elbowed him.
Hey.
But then I realized, no, it's becoming a part of my instinct. I didn't feel comfortable. I don't want that person touching me. Instead of vocalizing my words, like my body reacted. And then I was able to say, hey, don't touch me. Yeah. In a different way,
That he definitely heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you excited about? Do you have any projects in the works?
Yeah, I have so many projects. I honestly, I feel like this year I've really been blessed. I have so many personal projects that I'm working on, and I have some collective projects that I'm working on. Heal House actually is going to start doing recorded meditations and recorded videos. So I'm going to be flying up to New York to do the Heal House recorded videos and meditations for them. And with that, I'm going to also be back in New York City after a year, after some changes, after moving out. And as long as the personal projects, I'm working on self-portraits, I'm working on a lot of writing, and I'm working on also creating my own videos for my own little platform.
Nice. I will include a link to your website in the show notes so that people can find you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about chakras because there may be some folks who don't understand them. Maybe they've heard of them, but they don't know what they are. Like, how do you approach chakras if you're just completely new to them?
Yes, chakras is one of those things that kind of, I like to think of it as energy centers within our body. I like to think of our organs as energy centers, and I like to think of the chakra kind of corresponds to those energy centers within ourselves. So for example, like the crown chakra is really, to me, the mind, like allowing yourself to open up the mind. The third eye for me is like the actual eyes, the space of the forehead, the moment that you close your eyes and are able to see within rather than external. I like to think about it, the internal eye, the eye that sees within. The voice chakra, which is the fish chakra, is the chakra of the throat. So I like to think of it like organs that match energy center fields, that have information, that sometimes are in that space of overbalanced or underbalanced. So I like to kind of bring him into balance. And that's kind of what I like to think of the chakra system as, just energy centers within our body that correspond to an organ in our body.
And so if there's something, like some people will say your throat chakra is blocked or something like that, like how would somebody know if there's a blockage somewhere, or if there's some way of moving the energy through? Like, how would they do that?
This is the thing about the word blocked. Blocked to me is I don't want to say that it's not correct, but it's one of those things that unless serious trauma has happened, a person can't be blocked. We all have like our energy centers underbalanced or overbalanced. So that's always going to be the case. And it's our job to kind of tune in with, the part of our body that is feeling under or over, to kind of do a check-in. So I always like to kind of realize like, okay, where am I feeling discomfort within my own body? Is it in my belly? Is it in my heart? Is it in my throat? Is it in my head? Do I have headaches? Am I having problems digesting? Am I having problems grounding down? Is it in my feet? So I always like to do a self-assessment, and that starts with, closing my eyes or even in the shower and being like, okay, what feels today too much? Right? And then what feels under? What am I not what am I like forgetting here?
Mm.
Because of teaching and because this is what I do full time, I always feel like my throat always has over, like over. And sometimes I feel like my second chakra is sometimes under recently. So I've been working on shifting that and kind of like making sure that I'm doing my practices with the one that are under, and then doing my practices with the ones that are over. I'll give you an example. For me, when I know that I'm using my voice too much, I take no talking days, or I'll take a period of no talking hours. So for example, on Fridays tends to be the day that I don't talk to anyone, tends to be the day that I shut my phone off. I don't talk to anyone unless I absolutely have to. And that's how I kind of balance that chakra, because it is over. All right. And then we have my second one. This particular last month has been feeling under. I've been feeling more depleted, like not so much energy. And I realized, like, for me, it's dancing, something that brings me happiness and joy and puts me back in balance within my body, within my system, within my creativity, is dancing. So I'll put YouTube videos. I know it sounds really silly, but I'll put YouTube tutorial videos and I'll just dance for like, 5 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes it's 3 hours. And I just let myself bring it back up, and I'll write down the ideas that come up during that period of that ritual. And then I try to bring it back into balance.
Nice. To get into your body.
Get into my body. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because I feel like, that one of the things that I feel with spirituality is like, we are all, even though we're all spirits, we're all in a very real body. Like, we're all in a vessel, and taking care of our vessel, which is our physical body, looks very different for everybody, But for me, it looks like making sure that I know that my spirit and my physical body are taken care of.
Well, I thank you so much, Denisse. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And I'll also share the links so that folks can figure out how to work with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Rebloom Room podcast. You can find links to related resources at rebloomroom.com/podcast. And if you like this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time.